Colleagues, as introduced, Clifford Mukwena from the ETDP SETA. I'm the person who is managing this project, that we are having with NASCEE, on the side of the SETA. And, I'm working closely with Sandy, who's project managing on the side of NASCEE, and, Giles, who are always, trying to make sure that, we get the project rolling, and, we actually deliver on this project. It's been a bit difficult journey that we've had so far, but I'm glad we are here today, because part of us being here, me being here today, is to have a chat with you, just to discuss. I did a little presentation, which I hope will go a long way, towards assisting you and to understand how we as a SETA operate, and how you can then position ourselves within that space, so that at the end, you as NASCEE and all the affiliates, you actually benefit from the SETA. So as I said, I prepared a little slide, slides, which I hope will assist. And I hope, like Giles indicated, that there will be questions, as part of the sessions. I hope they are not high-grade questions, too difficult. I don't have all the answers, to be honest with you. I will respond wherever I can. I hope I will be able to give you a good overview of, how things are supposed to happen. If there is a need for us, maybe, or for me to go and get additional answers to some of the questions, I will do that. I'm just trying to say that I will not necessarily have all the answers that you may ask today, but I'm here today to try to assist as much as we can. As indicated, that's my name there, and I'm happy to be given an opportunity to talk to you today. The presentation will take, this type of a format. Overview here is the background, and then item number 1, number 2, just to give an overview as to how do SETAs operate. Number 3, how do SETAs allocate funding, and also maybe to give you an idea about the SLA that we have as a SETA with the DHET, and then the summary of the APP, and maybe even just to go a last word, there. So this is the summary of the presentation, how it will unfold. As indicated, as item number 1, the background, NASCEE was allocated the funding of 2,810,715 rands. This was allocated as part of surplus funding. It was given to NASCEE. Now, it was given to NASCEE on behalf of all its affiliate members, for NASCEE to administer this fund on behalf of all its affiliate members. Now, this money was to be used for employee empowerment, to empower the employees of the affiliates of NASCEE. That is the basis of, that was the basis of this, this allocation as it was given to NASCEE. Now, what happened is that individual affiliates had also applied individually, separately, to the SETA for funding. Now, an error occurred, and this error, I've apologized, to NASCEE for it, because it was from the side of the SETA. In the LOA that was given to NASCEE, names of the individual affiliates that had applied for funding were actually listed there in the LOA, which is not, it was not supposed to happen. Because remember, if we give an allocation to NASCEE, it must just say, NASCEE. We're giving 2.8 million to NASCEE for skills development program. It must not mention any other name. So this is where the error occurred, and this error actually led to a misunderstanding where, it created this belief that those that were listed separately on the letter of award. Remember, the letter of award is an offer letter that we give to NASCEE, that we are giving you 2.8 million. Do you accept or don't you accept? But as I said, the error was in mentioning the names. So now it then created a belief that all the, I think there were 15 or 16, entities that were listed on the letter. It meant, that it gave the impression that they was going to benefit individually, you know, without all the other members of NASCEE. So let's say, for example, I'm not sure, I was given this number previously. Let's say, for example, as an example, let's say NASCEE has 500 members. Now, this letter, you know, it could have given you know, the misunderstanding that only those that were listed on the letter were supposed to benefit. But whereas, you know, when we gave the letter to NASCEE, it was meant to benefit all the affiliate of NASCEE. If NASCEE has 500 members, it meant that, you know, the intention was for the 500 to actually benefit out of this, not only those that are mentioned on, you know, on that letter, on that LOA. Now, this is one of the biggest reasons why I am here today, to try and clarify, you know, this area and actually how the SETA operates, so that maybe you individually, as individual associate, but also as NASCEE as a whole, you can have a better understanding as to how, you know, SETAs operate. We have 21 SETAs currently. I'll just run through this because I know most of you already have, and you know how SETAs operate. You know, I'll just run through this one. Currently we have 21. Now, each and every one of the SETAs, it is mandated, you know, to facilitate skills development within its sector. Now, all organizations with a salary bill of 500,000 per annum or more, you know, with a minimum salary bill of 500, you know, they are supposed to pay 1%, you know, of, you know, as levies to SARS. Now, there are those that can request to be exempted from paying. I know, you know, even the NPOs, most of them or some of them are actually exempted from paying because of their size and stuff like that. So which means they can still participate in the SETA processes without Hey, colleagues, am I audible to you?
Yeah, we can hear you, Clifford.
Yeah, you lost me there.
Yeah.
We also lost you for a while, so it was
Yeah.
I think now it was trying to reconnect now, and I'm like, yay, what's going on here?
No problem.
Sorry about that. You know, I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah. I was on this 1%.
Yeah, that's fine. You can start there, Clifford. Thanks.
Yes. The 1% then is, you know, 20% is given to the NS National Skills Fund, and the 80% of that 1% is given to the SETA. And then now the SETA disperses this money, you know, through mandatory and discretionary grants. Now these grants are actually given to those, for you to get the money. Remember, you pay 1%. Now the aim is for you to get something back out of what you paid. So now, but
Clifford, sorry to interrupt. Would you be able to just pop your presentation back up? I think it would be helpful.
It's no longer there.
No, I think you just have to reshare. I think when you lost connection, it dropped the shares. So I think just reshare and it will come back up. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
You let me know if it's back up. It's
back up. I think just put it on to, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Clifford.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Now, as indicated, that, you know, that this money then is given back, you know, to the organizations, you know, as mandatory and discretionary grants. Now, like the word indicate, you know, mandatory grants, you are going to get something back. You will get 20% of what you pay. You are going to get 20%, you know, back as mandatory grants. Now, mandatory grants, you know, as the word says, they're mandate. You must get them. It's compulsory. You must get, once you pay, you must get something back. But you will only get something back on condition that you've submitted the WSP, you paid the levy, you submitted the WSP and the annual training report. It's only then that you will get something back. But if you pay your levies, but you don't submit the WSP and the ATR, you will not get anything back. Now, 80% of this now is given back as discretionary grants, which is part of what this 2 million that we are talking about. It's part of the discretionary grant that was given then back, you know, in this case to NASCEE. It's given, as the word says, this one is given at the discretion of the SETA. It's given at the discretion of the SETA. I hope we are together there. Now, how do SETAs allocate funding? You know, this is done differently. SETAs do it differently. Why, I don't know, but that's how it is. Some SETAs, most SETAs, actually, they have a window of application where they advertise, you know, that, you know, all the organizations that want funding, you know, for specific programs, they can apply. They will list the criteria of the organizations that must apply and the type of programs that they must apply for. You know, they will be put, and there will be a closing date. So most SETAs will actually have this window, you know, of applying, where organization can apply. And then based on these applications, let's say, for example, they have funding to, for 50 NGOs, for example. So then they will call the NGOs to apply, those who meet that criteria. And then let's say if they get 200 applications, and then out of the 200, they will sit down and sift, so that at the end they are left to identify the 50 that they are going to fund for that particular year. And that's how they will actually go about it. Now, but we as a SETA, we don't do it like that. We actually allocate directly. We don't have a window where we say, you know, NGOs can apply. You don't apply with the SETAs, with us, with the ETDP SETA. We go to the WSP. We check those, let's say the target is 50. As I said, you know, using the example of the window. Let's say the target, even for us, is 50. Now, how do we get the 50? We go to the WSPs. We first check those that paid levies. That these are the ones that pay levies. These are the ones that apply, that are exempt. And then out of that process, we identify 200. Now we go to the next step. Okay, they paid levies. Did they submit WSPs and the ATRs? Yes, they submitted. So out of the 200 that we get, then we will select the 50 that we are going to go with, and then we will go with them. So normally this is how we operate as, you know, the ETDP SETA. We allocate directly. But in cases like this, for example, you know, where we have quite a large number of organizations within that constituency, like for example, in the case of NASCEE or in the case of UPHET, you know, which is private training providers. Let's say UPHET, you know, we want to fund private training providers. We have 3 million for them. Or we want to fund 20 or 50 NGOs. So instead of, you know, identifying the individual NGOs, we then identify the association that is representing, you know, those, you know, for example, in this case, you know, the NPOs. Instead of identifying the 50 that we want to fund, we would then go to NASCEE and say, NASCEE, because you are representing the NPOs in this sector, we are giving you 2.8 million, you know, for you to disperse on behalf of your members. So in this case, we are only going to have one contract with NASCEE instead of having 50 separate contracts, you know, each worth 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 for the, you know, if we are to identify 50. So in this case, we will just simply go to NASCEE as a representative body, give NASCEE the 2.8 million, and then NASCEE will then, on behalf of all its affiliates, identify, you know, the key programs that their members would appreciate, you know, for, you know, skills development training on. Let's say, for example, you know, one of the key challenges, you know, for the NGOs under NASCEE is that they don't have SDFs, you know, who are properly trained. So maybe they can use part of this money now, and you know, NASCEE could then say, out of the 2.8 million that you gave us, we will use 1.5 million to train 100 SDFs, you know, on a full qualification, to make sure that we train them, you know, and pay for them using this money. So you see now, on behalf of, now our belief, by going through NASCEE, by using NASCEE, we have actually benefited all the NGOs that are affiliated to NASCEE. So, you know, in cases where the number is many, then we prefer to go through this route, where we allocate to the association, like in the case of APET, private providers, we just allocate to APET, and then APET identify programs, 1, 2, 3 maximum, you know, for all those members. And then they will then identify one from each, one, and then all of them will form a class, and then we train. So sometimes it does happen that, you know, direct applications to the SETA, you know, are being funded, you know, but this is very minimal. It does not happen always. Then the next slide, the issue of the SLA. Now the SLA, sorry, this is a contract that we have. Remember, we fall under we report to DHET, you know. So what happens is every year we need to have an SLA. This is a contract basically that we have with DHET. Now it's summarized into an APP. Now this APP, annual performance plan, it sets out clear targets for the financial year. We are currently in the 2022-23 financial year. So there are clear targets that we have, you know, that we have contracted with DHET, you know, to achieve. Now those targets, they will indicate who is going to be supported, for what program are they going to be supported, the number of beneficiaries that needs to be supported, the budget that is put aside for that target to be achieved, and also the time frame. Is this a first quarter target? You know, in the 2022-23, is it a second quarter? Is it a third quarter or fourth quarter target? I will show you a summarized version, you know, later on of the APP, so that you can have a clear understanding. Now, once we have these, you know, there is a unit, the research unit that actually goes about, you know, trying to identify, let's say for the 2020, the next financial year, we have already started with identifying, you know, those targets, you know, for the next for the next APP. Who are we going to support for what program? How many are we going to? What is the target, the budget? We have already started that process, you know, for the next financial year. Now it's discussed internally and also with stakeholders, so that they can all have their inputs. Once, you know, they've had their inputs, then it will be given to the board. The SETA board will then, you know, the accounting authority, once they are also happy, then it will be presented to DHET and Parliament for approval. Once it's approved by DHET and Parliament, then it will then be implemented in the next coming year. Now, let me show you. I'm going to stop sharing this slide. Let's see. Now, let me stop sharing this slide so that I can show you an example now of the APP. This is a summarized version. Can you see it, colleagues?
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks, Clifford.
Thank you. Let me just, I hope you can also see just try to increase the, yeah, as you can see, for example, now, as I said, the APP is the contract. It lists, you know, the programs that we are going to fund in a particular financial year. Now, this is a summarized version of the current financial year. I'll just run through it so that you can see the different programs, you know, that we have identified. As I said, we don't call for applications. We as a SETA, we sit down and decide, you know, as to how are we going to allocate. Now, 3.1, the indicator is the number of, you know, TVET students who require work integrated learning. Remember, for example, TVET students, you know, they will do this N6 now, which at the end of which they must spend something like 18 months, you know, in a work-related environment for them to get practical, you know, experience. And then once they get this 18 months, you know, learning, practical learning, then it's only then that they can get their diploma. They will not get their diploma without the 18 months. So in this case now, the SETA we said then that we are going to assist them with the 18 months, you know, that they need to spend wherever they spend. Others, those who are doing, for example, financial management, others, they will be placed at clicks, others, they will be placed wherever, you know, in an organization that is relevant to their qualification. So then the annual target for the SETA this year is 1,300, you know, for the whole country. Now for the Free State, as I said, I'm coming from the Free State. For the Free State, now my target was 104. So which means the other, you know, this number 1,300 was shared with, you know, in all the 9 provinces. And there will be a budget, you know, for that one. So for the Free State, the budget for the 104 is 5,616,000. 5,616,000. And then number 2 is to assist, you know, those university students who are doing teaching practice, so that we give them a stipend so that they're able to go to the schools, you know, pocket money, transport money, money for, you know, for food, so that they can be able to complete their teaching practice. So the target for the SETA this year is 750, for the Free State is 1,3. And then we also have internship programs. You know, the target for the SETA this year for the interns is 1,500. Now for the SETA, for the Free State, my target is 104 learners, 504 interns, and there is a budget for that. Now the one that is relevant, let me go down so that I can show you, you know, for employees. Now, for NPOs, as you can see, we have a target there. Indicator 3.21, number of CPO NGOs supported with training intervention. Now the number, the national number for the SETA this year, in this current financial year, is 10. And for the Free State, you know, out of the 10, the Free State must contribute 1. And then this one, how much is the budget for that one is 100,000. Now this is where you guys, the NGOs, this is where, you know, the money, this is where the SETA, you know, is allocating funding to support NGOs. We may enter into a discussion as to whether is this number enough? Is the funding enough? This is the discussion that I will leave with, you know, NASCEE, because we've had meetings previously where, you know, part of the advice that I gave to, you know, in that meeting was that, you know, we can have meetings with the SETA powers that be at the SETA and try to have maybe this number increased, you know, as members. If you feel this is not enough, you know, not many of you are benefiting, it's a discussion that, because as I said, we have already started discussions for the APP next year, so that maybe as part of that discussion, you can request that this money actually be, the number of beneficiaries be increased, maybe to 50, so that more of the NPOs, you know, can actually benefit out of this. That's a suggestion on its own. But as you see now, this is how we allocate, you know, the funding. As I said, you do not apply. You do not apply. It is the SETA that sits down and says, okay, in this case for the NPOs, this is how much we are going to support nationally. One will be from the Free State, you know, for the Free State is going to be 100,000. So this discussion there is very little we can do, because this one already it's signed and sealed with DHET. It's a contract is already in place, but you can still influence, you know, for next year, you know, as part of the discussions, you know, that you can have with the SETA and say, no, can you please increase this number so that more of our members can actually benefit? So this is for the NGOs. As you can see here, we also support cooperatives. We also support community education and training colleges, CET colleges provincially. We also support all the TVET colleges. We support private providers here. We support universities, public universities, all of them. So, you know, we list all these categories and we decide how much are we going to put into this. We don't ask for applications. So I hope you know, this part, it's now clear. So I'm going to stop this screen. I don't know, is there any question maybe before I, oh, Giles, by the way, you said the questions should be,
Yeah,
you know,
thanks.
we'll come to them at the end.
Yeah, we'll come to them. There are a number of questions, Clifford, but I think I'm going to leave it up to you just to close. I mean, to get to a point where you've given us all the information, and then we can look at the questions. But there are quite a few questions.
Thank you, Giles. No. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and then I'm going to go back to the presentation. Yeah, as you know, now basically that's the SLA with the department, as I indicated. This is a summary. It's the same as the one that I just presented to you now. And then now in that APP, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, there are targets that are aimed at ensuring, you know, new entrants into the field, you know, that, you know, so that remember, we as the ETDP SETA, we are mainly responsible for the education. There is a SETA for each and every sector of the economy. So we are responsible for the education sector. So we have a responsibility to make sure that, you know, there are new entrants into the sector. New entrants, like new people who are doing BEd, who are doing PGCE, you know, who are going, new educators into the sector, new lecturers, you know, at colleges, at universities, etc., etc. So now, you know, there are targets that are aimed at that. There are also targets, you know, these targets are mainly, you know, realized through bursaries for full qualification, so that we would then pay for, you know, new people who come into the sector and say, I want to do a BEd, you know, qualification. Then we will give them bursaries so that they can do the BEd, and then once they are qualified, now they'll be able to enter to replace. Remember, there's this cycle of others are coming in, others are going out. You understand? So that we always have a good pool of new entrants who are ready and able, you know, to enter the field to replace those who actually exit, you know, through full qualifications. We also assist them to complete their qualifications, you know, through stipends. I've already indicated, for example, that, you know, those who are doing teaching practice, you know, we give them assistance for them to go on teaching practice, because teaching practice is part of their qualification, so that they can complete their qualifications. We also give those who have already completed, you understand, those who've already, they already have qualifications, but they don't have, you know, the experience. Then we give them, you know, we put them into an internship where they can gain credible work place experience, you know, and then once they're ready, they can then go into the world, you know, of work and you know, as fully qualified and experienced. Now, but there are also targets that are aimed at those who are already in the field. Now, this is like in your case now, NASCEE members, you are already in the field. You already have, you know, by and large, qualifications. You are already qualified. So there are targets, like as I've shown you, the NGOs, you know, there are those, you know, for worker, you know, UPHET, for example, as I've made an example, that we will also fund UPHET, you know, so that it can distribute this money to the private training providers. So we'll also fund NASCEE so that it can assist, you know, those within its fold, you know, with skills development programs, to make sure that, you know, those who are already in the field, you are able to use this fund to improve your skills level and to ensure that you are relevant and up to date with your, you know, your teaching methodology. And then, so mainly it is through short learning programs, because as I said, you already have qualifications, you are already qualified. So you might want to do, for example, an advanced project management, you know, program, which might not necessarily be a full program. Maybe it might be, you know, 40, 50 credits. It's not a full qualification, but, you know, short learning programs, you know, preferably those that are credit bearing, to ensure that, you know, you keep up to date with the latest trends. But we will still do bursaries, you know, because in some cases, there are those already who are working, but who still do not have qualifications. Because sometimes we do reach a point where we say, you know, the minimum, all those who do not have qualifications, you know, let's say we say, you know, for you to be able to work as an SDF, you must have a, you know, a full 120 or 240 SDF qualification. Now, if you don't, we will then give a grace period to say, you know, this is the cutoff period. We were giving people a grace period of 5 years, so that those who are not yet qualified, they can get qualified in that period. So we will then also give them bursaries now, those who are not qualified, so that they can actually, before the end of the 5-year period listed, that they actually also get qualified. Maybe as a last point, that, yeah, in summary, that keep paying your levies, ladies and gentlemen, because if you don't, then the chances of you benefiting, they're very minimal. And also make sure that you submit your WSP and HERs, because if you are not, if you are not on that list, if you are not members in good standing, definitely in cases where we will need individual participants, your name will not come up because you are not on our list. Like I've indicated that, in one of the previous engagements, we had an open chat with the board. Mr. Giles was there and a few colleagues, with NASCEE, that, it was a meeting that was actually preparing for this one, where I advised NASCEE to actually meet with the SETA hierarchy. If you have concerns, go there, raise your concerns. If you're not happy, like as I said, as an example, with the number, with the budget that is given, engage the SETA so that we can see what to do. NASCEE, to push for inclusion in the APP, so that it's, instead of getting funding through the surplus project, once you're in the APP, it's then a yearly, every year NASCEE will benefit, so that in that APP, as listed there in, NGOs, make sure that, if in this engagement, you can just make sure that you request for more, so that more of your people can actually benefit. But like I said, unfortunately, we don't have application windows. So I'm not going to say NASCEE can apply, individual members can apply. We allocate directly from, the list, as I've already indicated. And this money that we give, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it is not, we don't give NASCEE so that NASCEE can go and train, other people out there as it came. This money is for the employees of the affiliates of NASCEE to train them. Whatever gap, whatever training that you feel can benefit, yourself, whether it's 4IR, whether it's, Excel training, whatever, the NASCEE affiliates will then just sit down and say and identify. It may not, it may take time before we cover everyone, because it does not mean that, everyone will benefit all at once at this training, because, you'll only need to identify 3, maximum 4 programs. And some of you might not need, this training for this year. So that, let's say for this year, if it's assessor, moderator, SDF, and project management. So others may not need this, you understand? But it does not mean that if you are not part of those that are going to benefit this year, next year, in the funding for next year, remember now, if NASCEE get the funding, then next year, NASCEE will identify other programs, because they've already done assessor, moderator, SDF, and project management. So maybe next year, then NASCEE will say, okay, now with that funding, we go for contract management, we go for HR training, identify other programs which you would then come in and benefit, But this funding, it's mainly for, for employee skills development, for the employees, and nothing else, on behalf of, all the affiliates.